Hey, what's up? Hope everyone's doing all right. So this is week 40. So remember, if we're reading the Bible and we break it up into 50 different sections, and you read about 14 pages per week, and so I have each section divided up in each of the bottom of the description of the video. Then you get through the Bible in 1 year because there's 52 weeks in a year, so you have plenty of time. And you start after the first week of the year, and then you end before the last week of the year. And so this week's reading is Matthew 20 through Mark 8. And so it's pretty cool because now we're getting to the New Testament. We're getting through Matthew. And so, the main question obviously is, what's the difference between the Gospels and why they have different Gospels? And so, I noticed like at work, so like I work at Amazon, and a lot of times a lot of things happen. And one of my main priorities that I have is I have a laptop that I use, and I don't want to lose my laptop. And this last week, I've noticed that when I like a lot of things happen, then and like I'm kind of brain dead and a lot of things happen, and I'm like exhausted through the day. It's really hard to remember where I put my laptop at because I'm kind of running around. And so, in similarity, and like when I'm reading these things and I have questions and I'm going through the Bible, then I think that God like shows me my life and my personal life how these things make sense and why things happen. And so I realized like this last week, I had to do some stuff at the very end of the day, and I had no idea where I put my laptop. And so what I did was I just remember the last thing that I could remember that I did, and like, okay, here is where I remember I was at, and so where from here could have I gone to, like the many different possibilities of the different routes that I've taken and where my laptop could be. So eventually, I found it took me several times, like kind of just thinking about it and what is it called? Um, oh, it's gonna bother me troubleshooting. So it's troubleshooting where my actions could have been and where what things happened. And it came to me. I was thinking about it. And I was like, okay, so all these things happened to the apostles, and you know they were obviously really tired and they were obviously really exhausted from the things that were happening, and so they probably couldn't remember things exactly the way that they were. Because I remember I was like, okay, there's no way I don't remember where I put my laptop. I don't remember this final step was. And when I found it, I was like, man, I don't remember putting it over here. And so just because I was tired from the other day, and so I would imagine too with the apostles when they remember these things, some things that they couldn't remember everything because people don't have memories, except for maybe they did, but I feel like they probably didn't have memories that were like perfectly like where you remember every single thing that happened. And so you have the different disciple, you have the different gospels, and so each of them remember things a little bit differently, and that's just human nature. If they all remembered everything perfectly, then they wouldn't really be able to be relatable because nobody can remember everything perfectly, and it wouldn't be realistic. And so they have what they remembered and what they recalled about each of these situations, and they were pretty much the same idea, with minute differences. And so I think it's just realistic, it's relatable, and it's just what it is. And it's like, okay, well, then if humans could remember every single thing, then everything that could happen, why not just humans remember every single thing that could happen? And I don't really understand why humans don't remember everything that could possibly happen in every single situation. Um, and so I don't know why that is, but that's just not the human condition. It probably relates to the different interactions when it comes to being a human and being alive and being in this area too. Why humans can't remember every single thing that happens. And so there's a reason behind it, but regardless of what the reason is, it's still human not to remember every single thing that happens. So you have the different gospels and you have the different people remembering. And if anybody's ever been in a situation where they're really tired or, at the end of the day, and they're kind of brain dead and they're just absorbing as much information that can absorb, they realize that there are times where they just don't remember what happened. And also you got to remember, like, this is such an extreme event, so we're reading and we're like, okay, we know the ending, so it's it seems like, okay, this is something that we know that they went through, but they didn't know what the ending was going to be. And so these events that happen are just unimaginably emotionally draining and stimulating. And so I think the gospels are great. I think there's great the way that there's I think it's perfect the way that they are recalled in a little bit different ways, and what happens exactly is a little bit is recorded differently. What happened is what happened, but the way that's recorded and the way it's perceived is different, and the perception and the recording of it is a little bit different. And I just think that's why that happens that way, because it's just the human condition. And so for Monday, I have for this week, I have love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. And so that's like the main idea that was portrayed in the Bible, and this is where the law and the prophets are hung up on. And it's interesting too because it doesn't say love the Lord with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and love your brother just like you love the Lord, but you love your brother as yourself. So you love the way that you love God, and the way that you love yourself, and the way that you love your brother are different things. The way that you love God is with your heart, your soul, and your mind. And the way that you love yourself and the way that you love your brother are the same, but they're different from the way that you love God. And so I think a lot of people kind of don't really see this, and so at least for me, initially for a long time, I would think that I should love my brother like I love God, but you don't love your brother like you love God. You love your brother like you love yourself, and so you love God with all your heart and your mind and your soul. And so, what do you love Jesus then? Because God and Jesus are different. So, what do you think? I think that when you love God, you love His child the way that He would want you to, and I don't know. Do you love God? You know your neighbor as yourself, and you love God with all your heart and your mind and your soul. So how do you love Jesus? Um, I guess that's hard to explain. So why would if God and Jesus are different, and you love your brother like you love yourself, and you love God with all your heart and your mind and your soul, so how do you love Jesus? If Jesus is, I don't know. And why doesn't Jesus tell us the way to love Him? I don't know. I don't know. That's something that I don't know, and something that I don't have the answer to because I haven't experienced it yet. And I have to ask the question first, and then maybe I can find the answer. For right now, I really don't know, and I don't really want to go on record trying to. Cause there's some things that I think that I can go on a record and be like, okay, this is what I think. But as far as the way that you love Jesus, that's something that I'm gonna have to try to think about, and not something that I'm ready to really say because I don't really understand yet. And that's something that I need to learn, or I should learn. And if God wants me to teach me it, then He can tell me that. It's very interesting, though. Okay, and so something I should reflect on. Tuesday, my main reflection is Christ tells of the end of the world and His coming. And so it's interesting because I was thinking about this, and it's like Christ tells of the end of the world, but He doesn't talk about the end of the earth. So I think a lot of people, when they think about the end of the world, they correlate the end of the world and the end of the earth and the same different things. But the end of the world, or it could be called, so like I think is like the end of the ages. And so you have the end of the ages, and you have the end of and you have the end of the earth. And so world is like a time, like the end of the world, like the end of this. We're in the end times. And so I think the end of the earth isn't going to happen. The earth is going to continue after the end of the world happens. And so people, they think of like the end of the world, and they think of like an asteroid coming and destroying the earth. And this is just a misconception of reality, and it's one that's been given to us by the authority. And this is just a way different view of what reality is going to be, at least the way that I perceive the Bible. Like I said, you have to unlearn, like I believe I said before, you have to unlearn what you've been taught by the authority, by both the religious authority and then the academic authority, who teaches things incorrectly. And so you have to unlearn these things. You have to unlearn the view that they've presented to us. And one of the view that they presented to me, at least, is that you have the end of the world, and it's also the end of the earth. And the earth is going to continue. I believe we're going to have our heavenly bodies, and the earth will still be here. And how we're on there, I don't really know. And if we're still in there, or if we're in heaven, or if the earth continues and there's still like life on earth. But it's the end of the world, it's the end of the ages, and I don't think it's the end of the earth. I don't think the earth's going to be destroyed, and then there's not going to be anybody here. We all talk about this reigning for 1,000 years. And so that's all very complicated with Revelation. So I don't really know how that's going to happen. But the way that I perceive the Bible is I don't think that it's the end of the earth. It's just the end of the world. And these are two different things. They're separate things, even though they're both kind of put together usually. And then so Wednesday this is my main thing that I was thinking about on Wednesday is, because once again, you have a main theme, Monday through Friday, that you take out of the readings each week. And then you think about those things. And so for Wednesday, the thing that I thought about or concentrated on was, for this is my blood of the New Testament. And so, you have the New Testament, you have the Old Testament, and it's like, okay, why does Jesus say for us to drink His blood and eat His body? What does this mean? And I think that He just wants us to be one with Him, and to understand His perspective and His reality. And so you want to be one with Christ so much so you drink His blood and eat His body so you can be one with Him. And that means just being, like Him in certain regards, but you're not Him, but you're one with Him. So you're just playing your role accordingly, like you should be, because each person has their role to play, both male and female. And we each have our own gifts and we each have our own roles to play. No, we want to be one with Christ, and I think that's what this means: is eating the blood, or eating the body and drinking the blood. And the blood is the new covenant. So this is, because they in the Old Testament, the Jews were told not to drink of the blood because the blood is like the spirit. And so we're one with Christ in both body and spirit. With our body, we're one with Him, with our spirit as well. And so we're with Him eternally. And so drinking the blood is a sign of the new covenant. So we're with Him spiritually, or with Him spiritually always. And then Thursday, I have Christ is killed, and thinking about Christ being killed, it's interesting because, like, for me, the main thing that I thought about on yesterday or Thursday for me was, what is death like? And I think death is different for everybody. I think everybody dies differently, and maybe some people die similar, but I think death has like a wide variety of what death could be. Just like life, I think, is different for everybody. I think life in itself is perceived differently depending on the being that it is or the man that it is. And so I think death is similar as well. Death is, experienced differently on that individual, a lot probably depending on his life and his relationship with God and a lot of different other factors. But I think death is, kind of an individual thing. And so the way that one person dies isn't necessarily the way that other people die. The experience of it is going to be a lot different depending on who you are. That's how I feel, at least. And so Friday I have, the main theme was today, and so it's the resurrection of Christ. And the resurrection of Christ is, interesting. Obviously, it's kind of the word that I use when I'm just trying to think. It's like I feel like to give me some time to think about things. But, so what is the resurrection of Christ? What does that mean? What question do you have? I don't know. It's like, is he different being than he was when he died and then he came back alive? And maybe he is different. And, is he going to be different from when he resurrected into the end of the world? There's like three different, he's still the same, but a little bit different, but three different like types of body or different realities of Christ, of Jesus. Like when he was alive, even before he was alive, it was different. He's different in a lot of regards. And does he grow? He's eternal, but does he grow? And I think that, he probably does grow. I think you have these different, just like, you have a child, you're different when you're young, you're different when you're a teenager, you're different when you're adult, and you're different when you're old. I imagine Christ is different before he came, and then when he was on earth as a man, and then when he died as a resurrection, and then when the revelation comes, he's probably different. I don't know if growth is the right word, but it's different. I think it's different is the right word to use, just like a man is different. And so I think there's a lot of things that happen outside of our life that we just can't, it's not really explained to us, we can't really perceive it, and so there's not really a word that accurately depicts it, but at least a little bit. And then also you have to have like understanding in your life, because what is knowledge but is based on memory. So you have your memory, and then your memory is how you understand things. And so if you don't have the memory of something, and you don't have like the parts to put it together in order to perceive something, then you can't really understand it. And so you have to have events that you go through, at least I feel like it, to understand and to perceive things. But a lot of times these events, at least I feel like a lot of these events are painful and difficult. And at least for me right now, I'm not really trying to, I'll go through things that God wants me to go through, but I don't really want to go through pain unnecessarily just because of my pride, because I want to understand something, or because I'm lacking in a way that God wants me to lacking because I'm not walking correctly. And so in order for me to understand something, to perceive something, I have to go through pain and difficulties for order for me to be what God wants me to be, because I'm because of my pride, or because I'm lacking something, or not understanding something, or doing something incorrectly. And I'm glad and I'm grateful for the pruning, but I'd rather not be pruned if I don't have to, or at least prune less than I have to be. I think that's just better for everybody. You just like have a pruning, you don't want to go out and prune things unnecessarily, and it takes a lot of time and effort. And so the less pruning, I think, the better. And that's why I'm trying to require less pruning, and I think there's incentive to it and reward as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have. A lot to reflect on in the New Testament. And the major theme I'm kind of going away from this is like, if God and Christ are different, which I believe that they are, and it tells you how to love God, and it tells you how to love man, how are you to love Christ? Is that different? Is it a personal relationship so everybody loves Christ differently? I mean, maybe it's different enough where you can't say exactly how it to be, or there's not any way to like explain it in a way that's for everybody to understand it and everybody do it, because you love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. That's something that you can do because you want to love God more than anything. God is the number one priority. And then loving your neighbor as yourself, that gives you a good idea how to love your neighbor, or how to love your neighbor, and also how to love yourself. But how do you love Christ? Maybe that's different for everybody because it's like unique, and it's more complicated than it can be expressed with words. But it's something that you just kind of know how to do, and you just do it once you build your relationship with the truth, which is Christ. How do you love the truth? If Christ is the truth. How do you love the truth? And you seek after it, and you love it, more than man, but less than God, I guess. I don't know. It's a difficult one to understand, and I don't really understand it. But I grow to it, and like one of those things is like, okay, well, I don't want to have to go through difficulties and be pruned unnecessarily. If it doesn't really matter right now, I'll understand it, and I'm doing well in my walk right now, and so maybe it's something that would just make things more difficult for me and make it so my walk would make me stumble more on my walk, which seems kind of silly, but I'll just wait and see if God wants me to reveal this to me, and the way He wants to reveal it to me, how am I supposed to love Christ and His time, and I'll just wait for the answers. If I don't get the answers, then I feel like I just need to be okay with that and just do the best that I can with what I got, and to learn what I got. And I don't know everything, and I don't have to learn everything. This interesting thing where it's like, okay, where Christ tells us how to live, and then the people in the Bible in the New Testament. Oh, my cat's just. Hold on a second. I know, come on in. She doesn't like it when I shut the door. But that's because I have a washing machine going. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh well, it's getting towards the end of this. Getting long-winded. What do you want, Rosie? I was in the middle of a video. What are you doing? Huh? What do you want, Jojo? Meow. What do you want? It doesn't tell me what meow mean. Meow. What does that mean, Woozy Q? Meow. Okay. Hope everyone's doing good. God bless and happy truth seeking.